check, quick sound check. Can everybody hear me loud and clear? Let's get an audio check in the chat. Hopefully, you all can hear us and see us well. What's going on, Coach Paul?
Hey, Coach Jay, welcome. Great big day for you.
Yeah,
And can you hear
that
me?
was fun. Yep, I can hear you. I got you. Looks good. Sounds pretty good. I'm gonna close down some stuff over here on my side, but we look a little good. And happy Friday. Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to At the Buzzer, our market recap. If this is your first time here, I am Coach Jay. That is Coach Paul. The goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity, see how we could have taken advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. This is our first time meeting. I'm Coach Jay. I've been a Top Step Performance Coach for about 14 months now, 13, 14 months. Been trading for 11 years. Been in the futures markets for about the last 5 years. And that's my guy, Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, Coach Jay, I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Top Step for about the same amount of time as a trading coach. I've been involved in the futures market for 4 decades. Started on the trading floor. I've been a fund manager. I've been a FCM executive, Series 3, 7, a lot of experience in different roles, and I'm here to share my experience and hopefully help you become a better trader.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Coach. And the way we start every segment is by looking at the top percentage movers on the day. There's about 30 or so markets that we can trade at Top Step. Maybe I haven't taken a trade in all of them, but we want to, pay attention to opportunity in a few different markets. So to the downside, we'll go over the top three. We have the Russell down 1.11%. The Actually, sorry about that. Corn down 1.05%, the Russell down 1.11, and Platinum down 1.47% for our biggest percentage mover to the downside. To the upside, we have live cattle up 1.19%, the Nikkei up 1.26%, and Nat Gas up 3.96% for our biggest percentage mover to the upside. For the four major markets that we talk about all the time, gold up 1.18%. Let's see what else we got here. Crude oil down 0.04%, whereas the S&Ps, they're moving around still because of quad witching, down 0.38%, and the Nasdaq down 0.38% as well. What's going on, Andre, Andrew, Coach Hoop, all in the chat? Good to see you. Andre, that fast market was a lot of fun, man. A lot of fun. We'll talk
Well,
about the
Coach
trades.
Jay, great job, you and Coach Dakota. It was fun to watch. Might not be as fun to hold the heat, but
Yeah,
nice call and great management of the trade.
I think that
You're
was
a
the biggest.
warrior.
I think that was the biggest thing. The management. Once we got into it, we were in the trade that ultimately worked out after being in a little bit of a drawdown. Um, and we figured it out. And that whole process, I spoke about it on the show a little bit, but that whole process of a collective idea group trade is a tough thing to do, right? Where you have traders who we're all probably a little bullheaded ourselves, right? Needing to come to a collective agreement on something when we all see the market so differently. And when it works, it's a beautiful thing, right? That's why I love being a part of it, as difficult as it might be. When it works, it's awesome. So let's get into the charts for a little bit. And the trade that we took was in the ES. So let's talk about the S&Ps. You can see how much was on my charts here. I am also going to pull up a Quant Tower screen because I was looking at a few things, and I'll show you guys exactly what I was looking at, calling out for that trade. But Coach,
Coach,
well, go ahead.
one thing I just wanted to go, but it wasn't a big news day, was it?
Not at all. So let's check the Trader Hub real quick to see what we did have. Uh, Nothing. And we talked about that a little bit yesterday. We know it was uh, triple witching, quadruple witching, whatever you want to call it, with options expiration, futures expiration as well, where those September contracts did roll over to December. But no, Coach, not much on the news, not much as far as Fed speakers
Yeah.
go. Pretty quiet.
My experience, those quadruple witching days means options expirations, futures expirations. What's the other? ETF expirations.
Yeah, something like that.
Um, the milk. gallon expiration, but
Check the
it
fruit in your
can
fridge.
lead to this violent kind of action, where things need to be done, and the clock is ticking.
Mhm.
So one big, I think it's really important to understand when it's a quadruple, when it's that type. It happens quarterly. Just be aware of it. You might and understand there's going to be whips, and we
Absolutely.
witnessed today. So go on, coach.
Yeah. So, with that being said, right, not much as far as the calendar goes. We know the big news was earlier in the week, and that's what the market was waiting for. And a lot of times, we've talked about it. Sometimes you get consolidation prior to a big news event, and then after the fact, where yesterday we had a pretty nice trend day up, right? 2% in the S&Ps. We had almost a 3% move in the Nasdaq. Not surprised to see somewhat of a consolidation today. I'm looking at the 30-minute chart, coach. I have your moving averages up here. 200 is the white one, purple is 50, and yellow is going to be the 20 moving average on the 30-minute chart. The 20 and the 50 kind of overlapping each other with the 20 below the 50, which means, medium time frame, we're kind of hanging out at these prices, but all of them above the 200 moving average. We did make that new all-time high right below 5800s in the ES yesterday, and the market kind of just figuring out what we're going to do next. So, coach, the one thing we did talk about yesterday, just going into this session, and I think we showed traders a few times in a few different markets this example, the 30-minute Globex Open. Uh, and so I want to let you guys know where this came from. I was doing a very similar analysis on a 3-minute chart, right? And this is why I think it's a really strong case to make that there's no right or wrong way to do anything in trading. When we started this in Discord, I would be pointing out this trade on a 3-minute chart for the New York session opening range. Coach Paul, being a trader himself and taking information and using his own analysis on it, said, "Hey, you know what? Why don't we look at the Globex session open, right? So 5 p.m. Central Time, see what that range is, attach an opening range to that, and see how it works out. That's this trade here that we talked about for 15 minutes yesterday, showed it in a bunch of different markets, and we're going to go through the four major markets today and see exactly what it looked like. But if we have that 30-minute Globex range and anchored VWAP to it, coach, we left that 30-minute range in the first 2 hours of the market. The high of that range was 57.76 and the orders. We never made a higher high than that on the day.
Yeah.
All the wicks, all the volatility, even in that crazy power hour move that we saw, rejected in that range. VWAP never trading back into that range, and a really strong rejection. That could have been your one trade of the day with that analysis. So um, when I came in this morning looking at a short bias, this was the reason. We were VWAP under the range. We were trading below the range and looking short here, and we've seen how many times that has played out before.
Yeah, that I think that played well into what we're the quadruple witching hour. Did we have average volume overall um on the daily? Because you just felt it. There was nothing, no position was ever safe, as you well know. Um and it made it, even if you were selling it, made it difficult. Um but I did notice that, and I pared down on my positions, on my size, and I'm grateful for it.
Absolutely. And I just want to confirm, I'm saying Globex open, and all we're talking about is when the markets start to open again, right? When you can trade again, it's 5 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Eastern. We know there's that hour break on futures trading where you can't trade. When the market opens up again, we're looking at that first half an hour.
Yeah, and one of the things Coach Jay, I learned from that is framing out that important candle, and then that VWAP just showed the day.
Hmm.
Once it flattened, though,
Yeah,
which was dramatic, we had the pop, but it was about as steady as um, a rocking chair. It it was not. There was nothing to cling on to.
Absolutely. So let's get into the fast markets time, New York session open. The one thing I'm going to do, I'm going to anchor a VWAP to FOMC because I told you guys I'm going to keep looking at that one. And where it was down at 57.50. We know the high of the FOMC candle was 57.55. Why don't we just do this real quick and see what that range was? So again, we open up the New York session open right here. This is 8:30 Central Time. There's that New York opening range. Let's make the border of that red so we can see it. And same thing here. We're gonna attach a VWAP here, and same story. Volume left the range to the low, so any of the price action that was moving upwards was just difficult to say, yes, this is a good buy here, especially when overnight sellers are in control. So I think the first couple of trades we took were around 57.64. Uh, And if we look at this now, right? If we look at this in hindsight, and again, we don't get to trade in hindsight, unfortunately. We get to trade in real time. So we got to think about, hey, what have I seen as far as potential market movements, and then I'm putting on risk. Never saying we're going to get anything right 100% of the time. That's just not a realistic expectation. Um, but we get to see the market this way, and the first couple of buys we took were 57.64, and I'm reading this VWAP here and saying, you know, it's still in the range, right? Where if it was leaving the range early, and we've seen that happen a couple of times, then I really do like the buys. But because this anchored VWAP is staying in the middle of the range, we're chopping around. I'm a little less friendly to buys here, right? Where it feels like range bound market. We can see that that VWAP never left the range to the upside. Uh, and we were in longs and getting stopped out on it just against the flow of the market. Um, Anything you got on that, coach, before we get into the
Well,
trade we actually got into?
um, once again, at VWAP on that first 3 minutes,
Mhm.
it was flat, and then when it left the range, it gave great chance to sell. It also gave you a good plan if you're long and it's trending down and it's outside of the range. What can we infer upon that? That there was selling on the opening that didn't go away.
Right.
There was what I'll an imbalance of sellers, and those imbalances need to be worked out. I wouldn't foresee that dramatic, but
Right.
remember, knowing that it's a quad riching hour, I pare down,
Mhm.
just pare down my risk because it, there's pockets of air. It's it's like riding through a thunderstorm on a plane. Um,
Gonna be choppy.
it, it's going to be choppy, and there's times in that flight where you're like, "Oh, this is how it ends," right? And it really felt like it at times. Like there's no bids here. Um, just to go look at that one, it's almost a W shape. Um, but it was amazing though that it held that opening range. It never went higher than that first half an hour.
Never did.
And I was convinced later on it was going to.
Yeah.
Um, I was wrong. I've been wrong before. I
I'll be wrong
manage it.
again. I'll be wrong again. So yeah, we just sell off there a little bit, and there was a question from Joe saying, once the VWAP leaves the range, what are the options for entry? Uh, well, we talked about one of them potentially, right, where we were looking for longs. I think we stopped eventually, and then looking for a potential short at the low of the opening range, right, where, and I'm talking about 3 minute opening range now. This red box where VWAP left the New York session open range to the low. We already know on the higher time frame we're trending down as well. So what I don't want to do, especially on days like today, coach, is sell right here at 57.45 and then have to sit through this
Why is that, coach?
because I'm selling in the hole. This is the Shark Tank that we talked about yesterday. I'm the little fish saying, "All right, let's just keep pushing the market." And then the shark turns around and says, "You know what? No, there's more fish this way." And we get this retracement back to the range. And maybe I don't have a 14-point drawdown in my trading plan before the market ultimately goes my way. So, shorting at the low of this opening range, where we see the average price is lower than where the range was, but price itself is rejecting getting back into that range. What this is telling me is if I get short, I'm in a better position than whoever is short in this red line, right? If I'm short down here below the red line, I'm not in a good as good of a position. But this line is sloping down, price is rejecting this range. I'm in a better position than these sellers in the red. Worst case scenario, I make money to their position. It's only 2 points. But if they continue to sell, then I make money with them, and that's when we get the trade. So that this would be the A plus setup for me, where we trade back to this range, reject it, VWAP is below it, and now I'm selling on the rejection of this range.
And one other thing, coach, there is when you, when it's making lows like that, what is it doing? It's moving away from VWAP.
Hmm.
In other words, it's moving away from the volume. So that's kind of when we say in the hole, because in the hole can be a very relative term,
100%.
right? In the hole on a 3 minute can be a lot different than a 30 minute. But
100%.
then we've talked before is especially on day trading, getting your position on near the volume, in this case, near VWAP. Also, we measure the openings, either the Globex opening or New York open, because a vast majority of times the largest volume will be on in the first half an hour or the
100%.
3 minute 5 minute. That's where the volume's going to come in, and that's when you can you can define who's in control earlier. One of the times we get trapped is when we're making new lows and it's got to keep going, and all of a sudden it stops and it goes the other way.
100%.
If you're getting that trade off near the VWAP, near volume, you can you're going to know quicker whether you're wrong. Doesn't mean you're going to be wrong. And by
That's
the
the key.
way, a losing trade doesn't make it a wrong trade.
Yep.
So I wanted to go through that. Get as much as you can, especially in day trading, get as close to the volume as you can.
100%. And I see, some traders saying that, if you zoom out, this was a sell the rips type of day and not buy the dips. Uh, I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. I think when we define days as that, those are trend type of days. Like yesterday, right? Yesterday was a buy the dip type of day. Any dip where we were in a clear trend, the market didn't really choose a direction, especially once we got into the New York session time. We just traded in a pretty wide range where you can buy the dips here, and ultimately that's how we. I don't know what's going on there. That's how we got into that trade because that trade was a buy the dip. But it's important to know when the prevailing trend stops, right? Where we were in a short, where did they fail? And I think I had said it on the stream as well. Let's just wait for the sellers to fail and then we can get in. Where every push that we got, and we've talked about this pattern as well, here's the highest volume at the time on this 3 minute candle, highest volume outside of the session open. And we know that the session open is always going to be the highest. Where did it happen, coach? At the lows for the session. They got no
It's the
follow
J
through.
trade. Wow,
And
I didn't even recognize that. That
there it
is the
is.
J trade.
Right. So
And
go ahead.
Dakota saw that too.
Exactly. So this is Dakota's 3 bar reversal, right? But what confirms this one as a 3 bar reversal as opposed to this?
That one.
There's a close, there's a volume event, right? There's a volume exhaustion where this is the highest volume outside of the open. That's significant, right? This could look like potential for a 3 bar reversal right here, right? One, two, we get a close above this. This volume isn't significant, and I'm reading time in sales, right? I'm combining a couple things into this. Simple, we never got a close above that selling candle, right? The high of that candle here is 57.46. We never closed above it. So waiting for confirmation. Here we go. We get a selling exhaustion candle. That's a good start. We get a close above that. Now I'm thinking if I get in long here because these sellers failed, I can risk the low of where they failed, right? So I'm looking to buy and I can risk below 57.33. Ideally,
How
do I
much
want
would
to
that
buy?
be?
So if I get in at, let's say I get in at 41, risk 33s, that's 8 points on the S&Ps. What is that? About 400 bucks a
Yeah,
contract?
exactly. Maybe even a little more. Or you could do 5 micros or whatever your account size is.
Right. We got people saying it's called a bearish engulfing bar. It's called this. It's called that. I don't give a shit what it's called. It is called the market reversed. I'm gonna be honest.
Well, tell us what you really think, coach. Yeah.
It's a 3 bar reversal. It's the market turning around.
It-
And if it's a bearish engulfing for your strategy,
yeah.
100%. That's what it is, and we all see it the same way. Um, but it's the market turning. It's the market turning. It's sellers failing. It's all of that. Um,
And you know what? It tags the same structure. You
mm,
say tomato, I say buy it. Um, and what I like, and I call this J trade,
mhm,
um, because that volume event was the biggest. Okay, and it was making new lows. Now let's just think what's happening in that moment. If you can bring that chart back to see what happens when it's making that lows and cover the rest, and we could, like you just did. But I just at that at that point on those lows, we don't know. We have nothing but uncertainty. We know that it's being sold, and that volume. The next one, when we say that next buying candle, when it gets taken out, you know the the engulfing candle, the J trade.
mhm,
Here's the bottom line: the selling is stopped. If selling hadn't stopped, you wouldn't see that buying, and you wouldn't take out that high.
mhm.
And that was the trade. That was
100%.
when
And
we
so
go back and look at that.
got a question from Lioness Rain. Says, but can you discuss the first one around 10:15? That looks like a higher volume and it reversed. 100%. Let's go back to it. Right here, it is here, and Lioness Rain, you're not wrong. This is a 3 minute candle, high volume at these lows, 57.45. What's significant about this is the candle tested 57.50, which we know is a major psych level. Is this a good trade? 100%. It's the same trade. So we could have taken that one. At this point, I personally wasn't looking long because it looked like a downtrending day, right? Where yet that was our first real extension away from VWAP. I'm watching the tape. I'm seeing big sellers come in. So you can take this, and we talked about it a couple times, right? Where
Like,
you can you can trade both sides of the market if you want to. And the one thing I think I would define this trade as is a counter trend trade for what we were seeing.
yeah, and a
But
nice buy. Where did it
mhm,
go to?
right back to the
Right
range,
to
right back to
VWAP,
VWAP, right? So
where the selling came back again.
this is where you might see Dakota take the trade once, it works out, and then the same setup take presents itself again, and it works out again, right? We aren't relegated to taking one trade of the on the day. That might be in your trading strategy where you say, "Hey, I'm looking for one good setup," and this could be it, right? You could have had a 12 point, take part in a 12 point move in the S&Ps, be done after 45 minutes of a session, and go about the rest of your day. Right, so yes, this is that same trade. This one to me is a little bit better because we came down to some higher time frame demand, right? Now, if we zoom out, we look here, that first bounce happened at this yesterday's low, yesterday's New York session low. That was that first one that we got, and then the second one happened at a higher time frame demand level, right? So that's why I really like that trade. Uh, so we got the right? Sell off, exhaustion candle, a close above it, the retest of it. Uh, this looks just like the opening range trade, right? Where we test this range, the market says, "Hey, are we done trading these prices, guys? Yeah, we're good." So we talked about where can we anchor VWAPs. There's one to the
You
low.
took the words out of my mouth, coach. And you at that previous one at 10 something that
Hmm.
Linus Rain was talking, you could do the same thing with an anchored VWAP there, and the race is on. I mean, does it get on when it gets underneath it? Is it no good? That's almost, you know, that's worth some money.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, we one thing I've noted this week is that's a great way to measure your trade in your time frame.
For sure, for sure.
Because
And
if
then
it's good, the volume should go with it.
correct. Where we got into the trade initially, I think was 57.43. And shout out to Dakota for sticking to the his thesis of buying this market. We've seen him make 100 grand in a week on a market that was nosediving. So he knows what he's looking for, right? So he saw a
Yeah.
3 bar reversal on the 5 minute chart, and that's the trade we ultimately took. And from there, it was about managing the position, right? We had uh, a couple of things to get through, and let me see if I can pull up Quantower real quick. Let's see if this works. That's not Quantower. I lost Coach Paul. What am I doing here? Hold on 1 second. I'm gonna
I'm
try to
still
pull
here.
it. All right, yeah, I took you off the screen for a second.
Oh,
Give me 1 second. I'm gonna switch over to my Quantower screen. Okay, no, I'm not. Whatever. It didn't work. Let me see if I can do this because I actually want to really show this, if we can. So bear with me, Coach. If you could just talk for a second, I'm gonna try to bring
yeah.
something up here.
While you're doing that, the 5 minute reversal,
Hmm.
we just saw that. Coach Jay had it. Um, it's taking the high, I believe, of the last three. If it breaks the high of the last three candles, it's a reversal, correct?
Yep.
Does it have
That.
to be off of lows or highs?
Uh, I think it's better at a low or a high. I think it's
All
better at
right.
a low or a high for sure.
And then risking the low or the high of that structure.
Correct.
And boy, that's Dakota's trade. I mean,
Yeah, it is.
and that was a great side. That was a hard buy, as we could witness during that trade, because we're still, one of the things, it's still we're still living the break in our
Hmm.
minds. Like, this stuff is breaking hard.
Yep.
And one strong suit that Dakota has, and I mean, he was stern. Not, I wouldn't say stern, is he's got the confidence. When
Hmm.
he sees that, he doesn't carry that past. And this is
Correct.
important for traders in a mindset like, wow, it was just breaking. Because our first reaction is going to be, it's gonna break again.
Hmm.
And if you know your exit and you frame out your risk, sh- you have one thing I love about Dakota is he has to take the trade, and he will
Yes,
lose. And he probably loses. I believe he loses more than he makes, but when he wins,
he
it's a
wins.
bigger winner than and he wins. So for new traders, when you get in your trade that you've defined over time that you want, at that point, this is where confidence comes in. If you're worried about what just happened, it's going to affect your ability to hold a trade. You have to become balanced, and and we talk about this, one of the seven principles of successful traders is accepting the risk or don't take the trade.
100%.
And that was on full display today on both of you. That was some of the best TV I've seen, because not only that was a classic example of that. It, the guts to take that trade and then to
Oh,
hold on to it and manage it.
we're getting trying to somebody's trying to sell some crypto in our chat here. Let's see if we can get rid of that somehow. It's how you know you're popular when people try to spam your stream. Thanks for doing that. Traders, don't worry about what's going on in the chat. We will figure that out. But I got the Quant Tower screen up here and what we were looking for. So we got the same pattern down here, right? These Quant Tower charts are purposely boring for this reason because I only want to know where big market participants are. And this is an indicator on Quant Tower. Again, it's something I use in my strategy, not available on Top X. Maybe one day we can get something like this down the line. But everything you see here, anything orange, right? These orange blocks here are selling, big selling blocks. The blue ones are big buying blocks, right? So when we got in this trade, here's that same 3 bar reversal on the 3 minute chart. We got in at 43s about. As we're reading this trade, and coach, we talked a little bit about this yesterday, making trade management decisions instead of having to make trade entry decisions. At this point, we have a
Mhm.
trade on. It's about managing what we see. And I think the entire time I'm calling it out like, hey, I like where we are. We just need to see some covering come into this market above where these big sellers came in. So the first one was at 57.52. We can see there was a seller there. That's why I'm looking at this level. And we see a big buying block going in our favor, right? So I see this and I'm just like, hey, I really like this. As long as we see more of it, we're great. This is the first one, 57.52. Above that, we should see some covering. And that's when we start to chop around this area. Above that, the next one was 57.57. So if we get above there, that would put us back above the session VWAP. We should see some more covering there. And then that last one was above 57.62, which would be up here. And this is where I'm saying, personally, I like the trade that we're in. Maybe we can add a little bit to it if we think it's going to continue to run on any type of pullbacks, right? But I need to see the seller that started this move to the downside. I need to see them get out of the way first, right? So when the market trades back above there,
Coach, and you did say that on TV.
yep,
These sellers got to get out of the
get
way.
the F out of the way. Right.
Good. You sounded
Um,
like a baller at that point. I got to tell you, get out the way. Jay's coming through,
right.
and Dakota.
Yeah.
By the way, you guys, as a coach, as a basketball coach, and as you guys held your ground and you worked it out. It was really good to see.
Yeah.
Um, so you
Um,
said as traders, we have, you know, you have to, at one point you have to be confident without being cocky.
mhm,
Um, and to work with someone else who's seeing something different, uh, it can be very. It's like a marriage. At one
absolutely.
point, you're not going to see eye to eye and everything, but you work out for the best. And you guys did a great job of that. I like the way Dakota got into that trade. I love that trade, especially when it matches up with the J trade or the
Oh yeah.
engulfing candle.
When the
But
stars
I call it
align.
the J trade is because of the volume. Um, and then giving way to take some profit. I like that a lot.
Mhm,
Is take some off to pay for the trade that you could hold a little longer. It makes it easier to take the swings.
correct.
So
I'll go back to Top Step X here, and again, guys, that is just a feature in Quant Tower. I did want to show that because that's what I'm looking at. We all have ability to use different platforms. I do trade on Top Step X, but I am at times using other uh, platforms, and it's just Quantower because I've been trading on it for so long. And I've seen some people say, "Hey, how can I get that same information on TopStep X?" It's not currently available, right? We got to remember TopStep X, brand new platform, continuing to improve. And one day, I think we'll have all of this stuff on here. I'm gonna put in a suggestion for some type of indicator that way. Um, but it's really you can do it with the simple volume candles that we have here, and that's on any platform. That's on any platform. That's probably a level of detail that we really don't even need. But what I really like again about that trade, where we were looking to get in, we could have got in again, coach. Later on in the day, the same trade played out.
okay, I'm glad you brought that up because I have it in my notes because it
Hmm.
happened again and it was vicious. By the way, Coach Vince had a great trade. He sold those near those highs
Yes, he did.
because it was at the high of the initial balance. And that was a great trade, but there it's set up again and came right back. And this is what this fit the profile of what we can expect from
Hmm.
a quadruple witching hour because it, big what's going to happen in those expirations there's going to be big volume come in and then and it's a big world. We're just like you said, we're guppies, maybe even plankton in this game. So the excuse me 1 second.
Mhm.
The bigger institutions that have to move some volume, price doesn't matter. So you'll get these swings,
Yep.
and um, we witnessed it how many? Three times. One, two, three, four, 5 times. Um, Only to finish really near the opening.
100%. And again, guys, don't worry if you're using TopStep X, you have enough information available for you on TopStep X to trade on there. I just wanted to show something else, but again, this you can use the simple volume candles. We showed this so many times here. Big volume, let the market close above it and trade there. I see Dan Emmons in the chat says you don't need to go get in as it's going down. And to an extent, I do agree on that. Some of the best trades that I've taken seem like the market is just jumping off of a cliff, and then I'm buying it right at that low. But yes, if you want to increase the probability of that trade, should we let it confirm first? 100%. And that confirmation looks like a completed 3 bar reversal, right? Where we do get that engulfing candle. We get that close above. That's added probability. And if someone's a newer trader, you want to avoid picking bottoms, wait for something like this and
Yeah.
truly wait for it, right? Where you can't say, well, if I don't get in now, I'm gonna miss the trade because then you're gonna get into this long here, get stopped out, and then think there's something wrong. The only thing that's wrong
Yeah.
there is the patience. It never closed above. So if
Um, J-
you go ahead, coach.
you just answered John Brantley's question. What is a J trade? He just described it off that low.
It's a 3 bar reversal with a volume confirmation. 3 bar reversal with a volume confirmation. So high volume, highest volume of the day, 3 bar reversal confirmed, and really for me, it's a retest of that volume, right? So this one here,
You're a patient person.
when I can be, it's when I can be. Sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I'm not patient at all. Sometimes I'm not patient at all. But that was the ES trade. Don't want to go too much more into that. The Nasdaq did pretty much the same thing. We got other markets to talk about. Let me just read this comment from Dan real quick. I'm totally on board with having a feeler on because you don't want to be totally left behind. But we could have avoided. Yeah, and we spoke about that, right? The team we spoke about that. Hey, how can we improve? Where can we improve? And yeah, right. Putting a feeler on because we think it is. Uh, but sometimes you think that this is where your full position should go and you accept the risk from there, right? Establish the risk from there. Let's go over to the Nasdaq real quick, and we're not going to spend too much time on this because it did pretty much the same thing as the S and P's.
Coach,
Hmm.
did I ask you? You used to trade Nasdaq only.
Hmm.
You find the S&P a little easier to manage? Is that why
Absolutely,
you? Absolutely.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, the S and P trades a little slower. The order books are a little fuller, so there's not as much wild movement in it. Um, and it's just a calmer market. Maybe I'm getting older, and I used to laugh, hearing you Hogue say, I'm an old guy. I don't want to trade that crazy Nasdaq. I might be getting up there, where I don't either, right? Where there's a lot of money to be made in the S and P's as there is in every market. And whatever strategy you use, you can apply it. But yeah, the Nasdaq is kind of stressful.
It trades a little different.
Yep,
It's I've well, here's the difference. The Nasdaq is basically 7 stocks,
correct.
right? Sure, it's the 100 stocks, but um, the S&P is 500 stocks. It's not going to it's not going to whip as much.
Hmm.
Period. By design. But
Yeah.
I'm not putting down the Nasdaq. I was just
Oh
wanted to
no,
put
not
it
at all.
out
I,
there
I
for our
still look at it
audience.
every single day. But yeah, I have made an adjustment. Dakota's made an adjustment, right? We took a S&P trade today, where
Oh
when
yeah.
Dakota first started getting on Topstep TV, it was strictly Nasdaq. And it's okay to make adjustments. Yeah, Nasdaq did pretty much the same thing. Of course, like the
She's
Nasdaq. Here, this is the perfect example. We talked about this Globex Open, the 6 p.m. Eastern Time market open. This is a 30-minute chart. The S&Ps never made a new high on the day. The Nasdaq did. So if you were using this high as your stop on the Nasdaq, you got stopped out. On the S&Ps, you didn't. And there's the perfect example of it. Same trade here, though. I was actually short a few
It's
micros last night. Once I saw the I actually preempted it a little bit, but we talked about it so much last night that I was just like, hey, you know what? I want to take one of these. So I got short a couple micros at the lows of this uh, Globex session opening range, just risking the highs. Turned out to be a pretty decent trade, and I closed it out. I think with a just a profit target at 20,000, because I didn't know how the market was going to react at that major level. So 47s down to 20,000 on a couple micros. Anything else on the equities before we move on, Coach?
Oh, can we take a quick look at the weekly chart? It's
Yes.
Friday, and
Yes,
just
we
get an
can.
idea of what we did this week.
Absolutely. Here is a weekly chart. We'll do it on the Nasdaq.
That looks pretty bullish to me. Is that the
There's your
weekly
moving.
chart, really?
Yep. Yeah, this is the
Is that the
weekly.
Nasdaq?
This is the Nasdaq.
Okay. You tell me what you see on that chart.
Buyers.
Yeah.
Buyers.
And why we do this on Friday, we want to get a perspective. When we're down in the granular world and you go back out and into space, and you're like, oh, wow, that really wasn't that much of a move. Even today's move was like a blip.
Right.
Um, but the structure, I think that from my chartist point of view, we break those highs this week and we run. So very healthy looking chart. Can that
Agreed.
change? Yes. Is this trading advice? Absolutely not. But that structure is not bearish. S&P, that S&P weekly, we made the low. What it was off
So
of FOMC.
this is a Nasdaq daily, and I just wanted
Uh,
to show that we closed above 20K. Let's go to the S&P weekly.
oh, geez, that's even more bullish,
Jeez. Yeah.
right? Look at
Yeah.
that.
Yes, it is.
Um, So why I bring that up? If you're whatever you're trading on the weekends or at the end of the week, review monthly, weekly charts, daily charts. It gives you good perspective. Um, Sometimes if you're down in that subatomic world in the 1 minute charts, it's easy to get uh, dizzy.
Yes.
Um, and the best time to do it is at the end of the week. Refresh your mind and then relax. All right. Well, ready for the gold? The barbaric metal?
Absolutely. And Rudy, I see your comment in the chat. It's been a pretty busy day. Send me a message in Discord. I will get to all of them when I can. Um, I don't really respond to DMs in Discord. So if you have a question for me, put it in the Top Step Coach J channel, and I'll respond to it from there. Here's gold on the weekly, coach, and it, it looks more bullish than both.
I remember seeing that. What was it? A couple months ago. I was. It look. If you go back, if you bring it back to the left and hide the last few weeks of action,
Hmm.
um, yeah, we saw that without this action we've had in the last 8 candles, it kind of looked like what the Nasdaq looks like right now. Um, that is not a bullish, I mean a bearish chart. Can it break? Yes, but um, charting. The one thing that helped me with charting versus the fundamentals is I can see the price action. It's repeatable for those traders who are new. You don't have to use charts, and there's people that can do it without. Good on you. But I think that's a rare breed.
Hmm.
Get to know your charts, get to know chart patterns. Was it Dakota used to have a big
The
poster
poster he
behind him
had,
with like
right,
100 different chart patterns? Um, Familiarize yourself with them because they're repeatable.
right. Absolutely.
So look,
Bullish gold. Did we make a high at? Did we make a new high,
Kind of held it.
2650? What was the high? Let's see. High of the day was 2651. Uh, when 2700 is the question, and probably pretty soon. Daily ATR in gold, coach, is 34 points about. So
Yeah.
maybe two
So,
daily ATRs away from 2700.
yeah. And by the way, let's do the math on that. It's 3,100. It's kind of the size of the Nasdaq, but it's another place with great potential with micros. I just it pays. Um, two two micros, three micros. You don't have to. Um, if you're wrong, you can afford to be wrong. In the gold, just like it's you can't afford to be very wrong. What was that quote you used last week about? Don't worry about breathing. Give your trade room to breathe.
Yes. Yeah, I gotta go back and watch whatever. I
I
should
might
start
want to
taking
put
notes
that.
notes on
That
some of those
goes into
things.
stone
Right.
in the Ten Commandments.
But that
Um,
that's it. Trading micro gold gives your trade the room to breathe, right? Where I was trading micros today, and actually took this exact trade here, and we'll talk about it. Same setup, right?
start
Same
there.
basis. Here's the 30-minute opening range from last night. And again, if you ask what candle we're looking at, it's the candle that opens trading. Trading opens at
The
5 p.m.
evening
Central, 6
session.
p.m.
Yeah.
Eastern Time. That candle on a 30-minute chart with an anchored VWAP to it, the VWAP left the range around 10 p.m. Central Time. And from there, gold is a buy until it's not. And it just this one was a perfect example of how that exact setup can turn into a trend day, right? We saw it in the Nasdaq, but the angle of VWAP never got this extreme. Where in gold, it accelerated as volume kept coming in, right? We have the London session opening around here, volumes picking up, and we continue to trend. That trend you could have caught from down here with VWAP leaving the range early, and then it's about how you manage it.
We talked about making what has been the pattern when we make these all-time highs. And I think we said we drop about $30.
Correct.
We didn't today
No, we didn't.
into the weekend. So the other part of me being the fundamental part, or if you look at something could happen. They're buying protection over the weekend. Over the weekend, we see a lot of things happen. And if you don't have access to a market, you're you have to wait, and that's how we create gaps. Um, with all the tension going on in this world, do you want to be? Who wants to be short gold? Not
Right.
me.
No.
Um, or crude oil. So that was an impressive move. Once again, breaking out of that range. And what does that tell us? That an entity or entities are buying that.
Correct.
What's an interesting we had? Let's look at that. Can you blow that up a little? How much time do we have? Because
We
we
got
have a few
about
minutes.
13 minutes. Let me just adjust something real quick here. Okay, so you want to zoom into this?
Um, yeah. Look at
Okay.
that. There's a volume event. Let's measure that volume.
So what coach is pointing out is this high volume event here in gold. We're calling it a high volume event because it's just a spike in volume, right? A spike in volume to the downside. It trades into that session VWAP that has been supportive the entire day. This is that exhaustion move. The high of that candle is 2634. This was one for me where I saw this pattern. We're trending up so high. I really wanted to get in. I was looking for an entry at 2625. And why 2625? Because that was the low of this high volume event over here. But we never really got down there. But to me, this is a really nice buy. But coach, I know exactly what you're looking at. So go ahead and explain that.
Okay, we'll look at that highest selling volume. Let's
Mhm.
highlight that candle. All right. Now, we had buying after that, but couldn't, never broke that high. It held.
Mhm.
So, which we talked before, did it reverse? No, but a couple things are going on here. We go back to VWAP, right?
Yep.
That almost looks like a classic stop run. Um, then we get a flush. I know it from my days in the pit or as a floor broker, someone sold a shit ton of gold there. I just
Right.
put it bluntly. Sold, and it gets quiet, and then it can, but the key is this, that volume, we don't know it, but on that candle, if we break the high of that candle, I look at it as a confirmation of selling's done. Because that selling is dramatic. It's what is it? It's a large amount of volume. It didn't follow through. And what else did we? We turned around, we held VWAP.
Mhm.
If you stopped out under VWAP, you
Mhm.
get right back in.
Yep.
But the key was once we broke that high, um,
Right here.
it was almost the best trade of the day. What time did that happen?
This is at 9:06 Central Time, 9:06 a.m. We got a close above what was that highest volume candle of the day, and that set the low. And what I really like about what you're kind of breaking down here, Coach, where we looked at the three bar reversal pattern where it happens really quick, right? In a 3 minute candle, it goes, 1, 2, 3, 9 minutes, you're into a trade. This one took a little longer, right? Where it didn't
Yeah.
really give a great three bar reversal pattern, right? Where we get that bullish engulfing candle. It happened a little later, and of course, depending on the time frame that you're looking at, if I was looking at a 15-minute chart, it might be a beautiful pattern, right? But the key is, regardless of the time frame that you're looking at, the market traded above where that high volume came in and started to close above it.
Yeah. And if we anchor a VWAP to that high volume, a new one, which we yesterday, was it yesterday or what? This week feels like one long day.
Mhm.
We started, on those events, you can start attaching new VWAPs
Right.
and see if it's working. And there it is. You had confirmation.
It worked, and just a really nice trend the rest of the day. If you were short gold, right? Were there opportunities to take shorts in gold? There were. We got a little bit of an extension from this VWAP here. You can short back into it. There were some decent opportunities, but this is a trend day, right? This is a trend day in gold. Made new all-time highs, 2651, and I think we're going to see that continue. Gold can get into these very overlappy, choppy ranges. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that either. But when it starts moving, the direction is currently up and to the right. So until that changes, if I'm looking for a trade in gold, it's probably going to be looking for a trend trade.
Yeah. Um, that's the way I see things. So great. It's a couple of great trades. Boy, in the gold market, like I said, it's well, I like it even better than Nasdaq. It's not as whippy. It respects.
Yeah,
It's it just doesn't have all these other factors into it, and it probably has a lot less retail. I mean, there's
yeah. I agree. I think you talked a couple of times about, there being some institutional investment in gold right now, and I don't want to fight them. I can't fight them. I'll say I'll say it that way.
well, the
That's a
only
losing
person
fight.
you fight is yourself, right?
Correct.
It
Correct. That's a
goes
losing
against
fight.
risk management. So,
Anything else in gold
well,
before we move on to crude oil, coach? We got about
n-
7 minutes
n-
left.
no, let's get to black gold,
Black gold.
Texas tea.
Let's see. 30-minute chart on crude oil. Looks so we mentioned this yesterday. Crude and the S&P is almost looking exactly the same.
It happened again.
Deanna did say there was some correlation there, but here's that same trade, 30-minute opening range. I want to repeat this so many times that this gets boring to everyone, and then we just say, "Hey, I took it in this market today. I took it in this market today," um, because this is such a great way
There it
to
is
read the
again.
market. There it is. 30-minute opening range. VWAP left the range very early. Uh, and if you take that short, you had a it's not the biggest trade in the world, but it's, 75 ticks to the downside. And again, I'm measuring the move, not what your trade would be, because we don't get to capture highs and lows all the time. But if you can capture 30, 40, 50% of that, a couple ticks somewhere in the middle, um, it's a great trade, and it gave you a couple opportunities from the high of that range. Maybe you take it early during, the overnight session. By the time we got to New York, it was a little late on the trade, um, but still some decent opportunity. And then it looks exactly like the S&P did. We came down to a higher time frame demand. This is the high, and crude oil had a response to the FOMC print as well. The high of that print was 70.38. We pushed down into it, couldn't test it, and then exactly like the S&P, I'm sure if we go down to a 3-minute chart, that same reversal pattern we saw on the S&Ps, we're gonna find somewhere here as well.
Well, that did look that
There it
yeah,
is.
that looks that looked like the S&Ps. It was funny. If we just walked in and I didn't know we were doing crude,
Right. There it is here, and this is crude opens at 8 a.m. Central Time. So there's the open there. We get higher volume in this candle that was at 8:57 Central Time, higher volume than the crude oil open. When price closes above that, we can set our risk at the low of that candle, and this is a great trade in that direction. Then we get another one here. Here's some pretty high volume as well. This is at 11:30, 10:30 Central Time. We haven't talked about what this pattern is. I will eventually, but that's a decent one. But the high probability is let it close outside of that. So we got to wait a little bit. Here's a close outside at 71.14. Right after that close outside, you get a 30 tick move in gold. I mean, in crude oil. It's a really great trade where you don't have to
heck,
capture these huge trending moves. Go ahead, coach.
what I noticed is the VWAP from the session open.
Hmm.
It never left did it? Did it ever leave that range?
VWAP from the session open did. Yeah, it's this green line here.
No, I mean it never got through. The VWAP never got through the that range.
Oh, back to the upside. No, no, it never
Only the
did.
price.
Correct. Only price did. VWAP never did. Correct. Correct.
So no wonder it looks so. Why I bring that up? We assume that when it's rallying, that there's that it's dry that it's driving big volume.
Correct.
But the important part of VWAP is that word average.
Right.
And if it's good, you should see VWAP going through it, right? That
Correct.
means it's been held. Um, and that was, that rally was once again we went right back to VWAP.
Yep. Yeah. It was price. And anytime to me when I see that, it looks like either shorter time frame traders are in this, and maybe not as much institutional big sizes coming into this, and they're just day trading it, right? Where this
Yeah.
looks more like a day trader's market than, or a building and accumulation for another move where
We have
we don't have a trend. Go ahead, coach.
do we have a volume event on the highs? Because we've been seeing the dips.
At the highs,
Well, maybe we do, we don't. But it looks like there was nothing dramatic until the close.
nothing dramatic. Yeah, nothing really
Wow.
dramatic. But we do have a question. Did have a question from Ivy Bear that we didn't get to that I wanted to make sure I answered. Will an anchored VWAP from a previous Fed's event become invalid with a new Fed event? Similarly, will an anchored VWAP from a high volume become invalid at the next high volume event? I don't know that I would say invalid, but maybe less relevant to the recent information, right? The more recently you anchor one, the higher credence I'm going to give to that anchored VWAP because that's telling us the higher time frame trend, right? So the Fed meeting in the beginning of the year, let's say it was in March, that one's not going to mean as much to me as the one that we just had a couple of days ago, right? But on a higher time frame chart, if I'm swing trading, I may leave that one on there, right? Because we know that there are market participants who are investors, who are swing traders, who are holding positions for months. So if we get back down to that average on a swing trade, yes, but on a day trade, I'm going to give preference to the one that I anchored most recently.
Okay. Well, we only have a minute left.
Yes, we
Um,
do.
we have any last questions?
I don't think so. We did say, can we look at wheat? It looks like it's just trending lower, under the 200 moving average, kind of trending lower. We did have a little spike up here. I thought about trading it. I thought about taking a short today, in the overnight session. Kind of happy I didn't because I would have gotten stopped out on something like this. But it looks like it's trending lower. Looks like it's trending lower. Uh, we are at time here. It is Friday. I want to thank everyone for coming and hanging out, asking questions, being engaged in the chat. Coach Paul, I want to thank you as always. Always great to do these sessions with you. Um, Anything we got before we go, Coach?
Great job today, Coach, and every day, and always enjoy um, this section with you. And to the audience, to the weekend, review. Take some time to review your trades. Make some notes. I find it the most effective, and then enjoy life as
Absolutely.
much as you can. All right, and
Absolutely.
then have
Shout
a
out to
great
my
weekend.
mom. Her birthday's tomorrow. So if you're
Uh,
watching, mommy, happy birthday. I love you.
Happy birthday,
And
Mom.
we have next week, just remember, we have Brian Shannon. Wrote the book on Anchored VWAP. I have it sitting here. So if you have any questions, make sure you tune into that session. September 24th, 1 p.m. Central Time, we are going to have Brian Shannon on to talk about Anchored VWAP. I will be tuned into that session for sure. And then we got Pass with the Pros, a new segment that we have coming up on Topstep TV. And you have the opportunity to get into that segment. So I'm going to find the link and I'm going to post it in the chat here. If you have a combine that's close to passing and you want to pass it with us on Top Step TV, fill out that form there. The team's going to invite you on. We want it reasonably close, right? Don't get a combine that's like 99 cents away from passing, saying, hey guys, I took a one lot micro and I won it. That won't be interesting for TV. But if you got, a couple $100 away and you want to pass the combine live in front of chat and see how it feels to, trade in front of 5,000 people watching live, fill that out. I will let you know. It is a completely different experience trading on Topstep TV. It's a lot of fun. I think anyone should try to do it if they're interested in it. And you can fill out that form and get your opportunity to do so. So thank you everyone for joining. Do something fun this weekend. Go enjoy your weekends. And we will talk to you all on Monday.
All
And
right, everybody.
have a good one.
Have
Bye.
a good one. Bye.